Little girls have the ability to recognize lies from an early age. Whenever a person tells a lie, her ears would tinkle.
안 사주려고.
Of adults since she was a child. She wanted to use this power to become a righteous prosecutor, but after receiving an assignment from a classmate, he offered her 50,000 won to help her find out if her boyfriend was sincere. A new world opened up for the girl. From that moment on, her life has gone from bad to worse. Not only did she get to ride in a luxury car and a handsome bodyguard as her driver, that day, the girl received a commission from a rich woman. She was asked to find out if a puppy was true to her. In order not to let her pet know that this is a test, the girl appeared as the rich woman's cousin. First, she asked a few common questions. She found out that she was telling the truth, so she asked her if she was dating her sister. Was it because of her money? This question made the little puppy slightly embarrassed. The rich woman then explained. She said that her sister was just worried about being cheated. After being torn, the dog said that he dated the rich woman because of her money, but after getting along with her, he realized that he had fallen in love with her. The girl immediately replied that it was true. Hearing this, the rich woman's heart almost melted. She asked the man when the wedding was going to be held. At that moment, the nanny came to pour the wine. The rich woman introduced her nanny to the man. While the man was introducing himself, the girl's ears were ringing. She said it was not the first time they met. The nanny was so shocked that she broke the wine bottle in her hand. The man rushed forward and asked the nanny if she was hurt. The girl saw the nanny unintentionally touching her stomach. She asked the nanny if she was pregnant. She replied that she wasn't. At that moment, there was another ringing sound in Rachel's ears. It was obvious that the nanny was lying. The girl then asked the man if the baby was yours, but the man told her not to talk nonsense. As soon as she said that, there was another ding in Rachel's ear. The girl revealed the relationship between the man and the nanny, but the man refused to admit his relationship with the nanny. He even tried to beat her up. Luckily, the assistant stopped him in time. Then she got up and said goodbye to the rich woman and was ready to leave. The girl's name is Murueshi. She's been in the business of recognizing fakes for other people. Her ability to tell the difference between the real and the fake was born in her womb. When her mother was pregnant, every day, she would go to the place where the gods were to pray for blessings. I never thought that one day, by chance, her mother's prayers finally touched the spirits. She was born with the power to recognize the real and the fake. Her mom wanted her to get into the prosecutor's office with this ability. But when she was in high school, when her classmates asked her to help her recognize if her boyfriend was genuine, he offered her 50,000 won, so she canceled her plan to become a prosecutor. Instead, she started a business of recognizing the truth for others. As the number of clients she served increased, her clientele became more and more sophisticated. To protect her clients' privacy, she opened a coffee shop as a cover. Privacy became the most important factor for her clients. For a while, she was making a fortune. She was just one step away from buying a luxury villa. The next day, she was invited to a party for the owners of the mall. Not long after the party started, they heard someone yelling for help in the distance, so the partygoers rushed to the sound. They found out that it was their own shopkeeper who was screaming for help. The clerk told us that she was followed by a pervert. She also pointed out the direction of his escape. After a chase, they caught a man in black, but when questioned by the crowd, the man denied that he was the pervert they were talking about. Someone tried to take off his mask, but she stopped him. She said he wasn't a bad guy. The crowd was in disbelief, because they didn't know that she could tell the difference between the real and the fake. When the man said he wasn't the one they were after, he knew that the man was not lying. That's why she was willing to defend him. But when the man saw Rueshi's face, he froze on the spot. He had met her 5 years ago. He didn't expect to look so beautiful now. That night, he was woken up by the alarm, because tonight was the Liverpool vs Manchester United soccer match. As a fan of Manchester United, I couldn't miss a single game, but the sound of he's shouting soon woke up her new neighbor, Du-ho. When he came to the balcony and looked into the living room of he's house, he saw a soccer game on TV and remembered Liverpool, his favorite team, was playing today. Since it was his first day, he hadn't bought any furniture yet, so when he got back to the house, he immediately took out his cell phone. He turned on the live broadcast and started watching the game. Soon after, the delivery man came to Duho's and Arhi's house. He left their order at the door. He rang the doorbell and went back. Duha opened the door carefully with a mask. After confirming that no one was outside, he went out to retrieve the delivery, but he didn't realize that the door slammed shut when he crouched down. Just as he was about to enter the password to open the door, he also opened the door to get the takeout. When she saw Duho in front of her, she instantly remembered something. Isn't this the man who was wrongly accused that day? Maybe it's because of the nervousness of the people next to him. Duha entered the door code twice, but it didn't work. He thought he wasn't the owner and was going to close the door and call the police, but Duho opened the door. When she got back to the house, she opened the takeaway and realized it wasn't what she ordered, so she knocked on Duho's door and exchanged it with him. When she got the delivery, she asked Duha if he had eaten it. She was relieved to know that it was untouched. Then they went back to their room. They ate the takeout and watched the game, but they were rooting for different teams, so when a goal was scored, they were both happy and sad at the same time. The next day, Du-ho was ready to drive out, but he didn't realize that when Ri's assistant saw his car, she came towards his car. Because of the high price of the car, his assistant wanted to take a picture with Du-ho's car, but she dropped her cell phone when she was taking the picture, and she bumped into Du-ho's car. She blamed her assistant. This is a 200 million won car. When she realized that there was a small dent in the car, they were even more panicked. Du-ho didn't want to show up, but the car alarm kept going off, so he opened the door and cancelled the alarm. When she saw it, she apologized. She asked him how to pay for the damage, but he said it's okay and asked her not to worry about it. At that moment, her assistant kept apologizing. She realized that Du-ho wasn't lying when he said it was okay, so she left with the assistant and went back to the car. Ray was very impressed by the words "it's okay." The next day, she saw his limousine being driven away. She thought he was being chased by a debtor, so she used the car to cover the debt. But when she asked him about it, he told her he thought the car was too high profile, so he got someone to replace it. Ray found this reason very strange. She deliberately showed a surprised expression. She thought Du-ho was lying because he was afraid of being exposed, but she didn't get the hint that she was lying. The next day, she received a lie detector test. He said he was going to meet a writer named Kim Do-hwa because Kim Do-hwa had never shown his face to the public, so no one knew what he looked like. He asked her to help him test the writer's authenticity. The next day, she followed Mr. Park to the meeting place. He told her to hide in the secret compartment of the private room and send a signal. Soon after, Kim Do-hwa arrived at the meeting place, but he was wearing a pair of sunglasses. He didn't show his full face. When he sat down, Mr. Park asked if he was the real Kim Do-hwa. After receiving Ryo-hee's confirmation, Mr. Park started a conversation with Du-ho, even though Ryo-hee was there to help him out. Mr. Park wanted to get Du-ho to tell the truth as much as possible, so he had to get him drunk, because the truth comes out when you're drunk. It turns out that Mr. Park asked Du-hwa to meet him. He wanted to make sure that the song he just won the award for, he wanted to know if it was a copy of one of his songs, but Du-hwa had never heard of his song. He didn't even know he copied it, but Du-hwa asked him if he copied it. When Mr. Park was full of lies, Ray-hee, who was hiding in the secret compartment, laughed because Mr. Park is lying. At last, when Du-hwa was about to leave after today's meeting, Mr. Park deliberately shook a bottle of Coke. Then he pretended to ask Du-ho to take a sip before leaving, but he wanted him to take off his goggles and take a picture of his face. When Du-hwa realized what he was trying to do, he just got up and left. Mr. Park saw that it didn't work out. Mr. Park saw that it didn't work out and took it out on Ray-hee. The answer he got was that Du-ho was telling the truth. Ray-hee advised him to be smart. Otherwise, he'll tell everyone about the plagiarized song. When she got back to her apartment, he didn't expect to see a man wearing a mask. She saw a man wearing a mask sitting beside her. She suddenly remembered that her neighbor often wore a mask, so she went up to him and asked him, "Why are you sitting here so late and not going home?" But the neighbor took out a bill and handed it to her. He asked her to take him home. She picked up the bill and put it back in her pocket. But when she lifted the neighbor's shirt, his collar looked like it had been sprayed with a drink. She immediately recalled the scene when Mr. Park sprayed Kim Do-ho with Coke. Curiosity drove her to take off her neighbor's mask. "I didn't expect this man to be so handsome." After seeing Du-ho's face, she was going to bring back the mask for him, but Du-ho suddenly opened his eyes. After realizing that he had taken off his mask, Du-ho hurriedly put the mask back on. Then he got up and left the apartment without saying a word. When she got home, she took out her cell phone and searched for information about him. Then she found the news about the leakage of Du-ho's house. She realized why he suddenly moved in next door to her. Then she searched for photos of him. She found that none of them showed his real face. By now, Du-ho had already moved to a hotel, but there were a lot of people in the hotel, and a reporter often comes to the hotel for interviews. Worried about being exposed, Du-ho chose to go back to his apartment, but he didn't expect to take a taxi to the apartment. He ran into Ray-hee, who had just left the apartment. After a few simple greetings, she told him about Du-ho's identity. She apologized for what she did the other day. Du-ho suddenly asked if she remembered anything when she saw her face. It turns out that 5 years ago, Du-ho and Soo-hee had met on a bus 5 years ago. Unfortunately, she had forgotten about it. He was about to remind him, but he was interrupted by a man who came out of nowhere. He dropped his cell phone and wanted to borrow it to make a call. She knew he wasn't lying, so she lent him her cell phone. But Du-ho reminded him that there are many scammers these days. What I didn't realize was that after the call, he asked for money for a ride to get his cell phone. Ray-hee realized he wasn't lying, so she took out her wallet to lend him money. But she realized she didn't have any cash in her purse, so she asked Du-ho if he had any money with him. The man who got the money left without even saying thank you. When he got home, Du-ho couldn't figure out why she was so helpful. At another concert, the star, Ha-won, was injured in an accident while performing. When he heard the news, Du-ho immediately called Ha-won. Ha-won thought that Du-ho would come to the hospital to visit her, but she didn't expect that he would just say a few words over the phone. His manager, Deok-chan, told Ha-won that he could confess his love for him. The next day, Deok-chan went back to the company. He gave a lecture to a subordinate who embezzled money from the company. He didn't realize that the subordinate had stolen his car keys. Then he opened his car's navigation records. He found out the information of Du-ho's new address. On the other hand, Ray-hee went to work in the morning and met Du-ho on his way out. When she got into the elevator, she took out a banknote and handed it to Du-ho. Du-ho didn't believe the man and gave the money back to her. At that moment, She received a lie detector call. Soon she met with her employer. She didn't realize that when she asked a few questions, the answers were all lies. Ray gave her employer a small machine in advance. As long as the other party tells a lie, she would press the vibrator twice to alert the employer. After the answers were all lies, the employer suddenly asked her boyfriend if he wanted to marry her, but she didn't expect her boyfriend to give her a positive answer. Instead, he found an excuse to leave the scene. After he left, the employer took out the money and gave it to her. He asked her why she couldn't lie to him for once. She told her that this kind of marriage will never be happy. She turned around and left. She saw the employer's boyfriend and his friends returning to the employer's side. He even proposed to her face to face. Then she realized that her boyfriend's lie was just a romantic surprise for her. Seeing the happy scene between the two, Ray went to the employer and returned the money he gave her. After leaving the scene, she couldn't help but think about her boyfriend. Thinking about it made her sad. It's her fault for being able to recognize lies. Otherwise, she wouldn't have broken up with her boyfriend. Afterwards, she went to a bar to relieve her boredom. She met a man whose employer had helped her to recognize lies, and he recognized her. He grabbed her by the arm. He wanted to pay for his loss. Luckily, Doo-ho showed up in time, so she didn't get bullied by the man. After that, Doo-ho drove her home. In the car, she asked him if it's okay if he doesn't have to hide his face in front of her. Then he realized that he was in a hurry when he was trying to solve the problem. He forgot to put on a mask, so he took a mask out of the car and put it on. After that, she took Doo-ho to a restaurant. Every time she got drunk, she'd come here and have a bowl of soup before going home. Doo-ho said he'd wait for her in the car, but she asked him to sit down and keep her company. But when she sat down, the owner brought 2 bowls of sober soup. She knew Doo-ho didn't want to take off his mask in public, so she pulled him to her side, as long as his back was to the other customers in the store, so that no one could see his face. When he tasted the soup, Michikazu was instantly amazed. He didn't realize that there was such a delicious soup in the world, so the two of them sat side by side. They enjoyed a late-night snack of soup and kimchi. After they finished their meal, Doo-ho drove Ray back to her apartment. Before she got out of the car, she said to Doo-ho, "People don't care about others more than they think, because everyone is busy supporting themselves," meaning that even if he takes off his mask, ordinary people won't care who he is. After saying that, she got out of the car first and left, but as soon as he reached the downstairs, there were 2 men with cameras looking through the mailbox. When she asked them who they were looking for, she didn't realize that they were looking for Doo-ho. As soon as they finished talking, Ray realized that Doo-ho took off his mask and came to the side. In order not to let them find out the identity of Doo-ho, Ray rushed to his side. Then he jumped and blocked his face, and then he turned Michiwa around and put a mask on him. Then he jumped up and pressed his head down to block his face. Then he quickly dodged 2 reporters and went back to his apartment. When they took the elevator to the front door of their house, he explained how to identify him, but she didn't expect to hear someone coming from the stairwell. He heard the sound of someone coming up the stairs. Doo-ho was ready to unlock the door and enter the house. Because he was too nervous, he misplaced his password. Ray hurriedly opened the door to her room and pushed Doo-ho inside. After they entered the house, Ray turned on the access control system. 2 journalists were squatting outside. He had no choice but to let Doo-ho stay in his house for a while, until they left. But it's a bit awkward to be alone in a house with a man and a woman, so she asked for Doo-ho's name to ease the atmosphere. But he said his name was Kim Sung-jo. She knew he wasn't lying. Ever since she met Doo-ho, it seems that he's never lied to anyone since he met him. She asks if Doo-ho has always been this honest, but Doo-ho replied that there's no one who doesn't lie. After a while, she opened the door to check. She realized that the 2 reporters had disappeared, but she saw her ex-boyfriend outside the door. The ex-boyfriend also saw the shoes in front of the door. He thought she was married and had a family, but when he asked her, he found out that she wasn't. He wanted to talk to her more. He was called by a colleague on the walkie-talkie and had to leave first. The next day, she met Doo-ho in front of her cafe. He rushed to talk to him, because Ray didn't know if his lie detector ability was wrong, so he wanted to ask Doo-ho out for dinner and chat with him, but Doo-ho declined on the grounds that he never eats out. Ray knew he was worried about being discovered by reporters, so she planned to find a restaurant with fewer people. Then she asked him to have dinner with her. She took out her cell phone and handed it to Doo-ho. She asked him to give her his phone number. At night, when she was about to close the store, she didn't expect her ex-boyfriend to suddenly appear in front of her. He helped her to put the things outside the door into the store. The 2 of them chatted for a while. Then he said he heard that she moved here. That's why he applied for a transfer to come here. She told him she had a boyfriend, but she didn't expect Doo-ho to show up right after she said that. Doo-ho realized that she wanted to use herself as a shield, so he came to her side and held her hand. When his ex-boyfriend saw this, he said goodbye and left. That day, Ray invited Doo-ho to a restaurant. She asked him to tell her a lie. Doo-ho blurted out that he was beautiful. She didn't realize that what she thought was a lie would become the truth. The awkward atmosphere made both of them uncomfortable. After a while, she took the initiative to ask Doo-ho a question again. She thought she would force him to tell a lie, but at that moment, Doo-ho's phone rang. He hung up and left in a hurry. It turned out that the person who called was Ha-woon, a star singer that Duho had been working with. Hwon had found out from her manager that he was no longer composing music for her. She called to say goodbye to him. When he left the restaurant, he called his manager. After inquiring about Natsewon's location, a voice suddenly came back to Duhwa's ears. Ryo-hee left the restaurant and went outside. When she saw Duhwa sitting on the ground in pain, she immediately went up to him and asked if he was okay. But he didn't pay any attention to her. He rushed to save Hwon. When she saw this, she rushed forward and opened the car door. She told Duhwa to sit on the passenger side and she drove. On the way to Hwon's place, Duhwa asked Rae-hee to keep his secret. Then he revealed his identity as a composer. Before long, Duho saw a figure on the beach. He immediately recognized it was Hwon. As he watched him walk towards the sea, Duho remembered his ex-girlfriend. He immediately told Ri to stop the car. Then he rushed forward to stop Hwon. When he saw the shoes on the beach, an image appeared in his mind. He picked up the shoes on the ground and carried Hwon to the car. Then he called his agent to come and pick up Sharwon. At that moment, Hwon turned around and realized that there was a woman sitting in the car. She introduced herself as Duho's neighbor. Hwon was curious and asked who this woman was, but Duho just looked at Ruehai and didn't answer. Then Hwon said, "You shouldn't have stopped me just now." However, Rae-hee heard that Hwon was lying. With Duho's yelling, Hwon had to get out of the car. After that, she drove back with Duho. Duho was so nervous that he was physically and mentally exhausted. By the time Ruehai drove the car to the apartment, but he couldn't wake up. He dreamt of his ex-girlfriend's death. He was warned that he killed his ex-girlfriend. When Duhwa said he didn't kill her, Rae-hee didn't think he'd say anything about the murder, and she realized it was a lie. Rae-hee thought her lie detector was acting up because she's never heard Duho lie. When they took the elevator home, Rae-hee noticed that Duho seemed to have a fever, so she went home to get some antipyretics. When she rang the doorbell of Duhwa's house, she found the door was not closed. She went in quietly. She saw Duhwa lying on the bed in the bedroom. She went to check it out. He seemed to have taken a hypnotic drug to fall asleep. He had to help him from the floor to the bed. Then she touched his forehead. He realized that his fever hadn't gone down. She used a wet towel to cool him down. When she was about to leave, she was grabbed by him. He pulled her to his side. He pressed one of her hands under his head. Looking at the sleeping Duho in front of her, she couldn't bear to wake him up, so she decided to stay with him for 10 minutes. But she stayed with him until the next morning. When he found out, he didn't thank her. Instead, he told her not to bother with him anymore. She was so angry that she left. But after she left, Duho found the fever-reducing medicine in the bedroom and the towel on the floor. This made Duhwa feel remorseful. At night, he went to the bar where he used to play the piano, but his fingers suddenly became paralyzed and he messed up his performance that night. Afterward, the owner didn't blame him. Instead, he advised him to take a rest for the next few days. Michikazu asked the boss to let him stay at the bar for a few days. The next day, he went to see the doctor. He wanted to know the reason for the sudden paralysis of his fingers. The doctor told him it was a psychological condition. He advised him to talk to someone when he felt bad. At that moment, Rae-hee was on the balcony to see if Duho had turned on the lights. She didn't know if Duhwa was avoiding her. But the next day, she saw a man who claimed to be Kim Duhwa. She saw a masked man claiming to be Kim Duhwa's composer. He denounced a park composer for plagiarizing other people's music, but Rae-hee recognized it right away. The man in the video wasn't Kim Duhwa himself. Rae-hee hurriedly changed into a dark suit and left the house. She went to the bar to look for Duho, but when she arrived at the bar, she realized that the piano that Duwoo used to play today, someone else was playing it. Just as she was about to leave the bar and go home, the owner of the bar asked her to take a seat. She asks the owner why Duwoo isn't here today. The owner told her that Duho wouldn't be coming in lately. He told her to wait here for a while after the last customers left the bar, but she didn't see him, so she was ready to leave the bar. But then, Duho suddenly appeared. She took out her cell phone and came to him. He played a video that someone took under his name and posted it on the internet. He told him that the incident had sparked a lot of publicity on the internet. Even his agency's representative is very busy with this, because last night, a representative from his agency came to see Ryo-hee. He asked her to help him find Duho. She couldn't reach him because his cell phone was turned off, but after seeing the video played by Rae-hee, Duho told her that the company would take care of it. She thinks he's a coward and doesn't want to face it. Finally, she reminded Duho to contact the company's representative, because his representative is really worried about him. After that, she turned around and left. After she left, Duho thought about what she said. He was slightly touched by what she said. So the next day, Duhwa went to find the man who had impersonated him. The man first apologized to him. He had no choice but to impersonate him. Otherwise, his plagiarism wouldn't have been noticed by the public. The next day, Michikazu brought the impersonator to the company. He explained to his colleagues he didn't realize that the plagiarist, Agent Park, would suddenly show up. He questioned Kim Duhwa's identity in public. To prove himself, Duhwa was about to take off his mask, but the company representative, Deok-chan, stepped forward to stop him. He took him to his office. Deok-chan told him to stay safe. He will take care of the rest. At that moment, Hwon arrived at the office. When Duha saw this, he asked Deok-chan to leave first. He wanted to talk to Hwon alone. After Deok-chan left, Duho told Hwon that I don't like you. We can get along well as brother and sister. After that, the man who posed as Kim Duhwa re-released a video. He explained the truth to the public. On the other hand, Rate he received a message from Du-ho, inviting her to a bar to watch a show tonight. She came to the bar at night as promised. She listened to the wonderful music performed by Du-ho. Then he saw her coming to the bar. He suddenly stopped playing. He took off his mask in front of everyone. Afterwards, Du-ho took Rai-hee to a restaurant. He wanted to thank her for what she told him the other day, because it was Ryo-hee's teaching that made him let go of his heart. But after the two of them started to eat, Du-ho felt that the person next to him was looking at him. After all of a sudden, he took off his mask and showed it to the public. He felt a little uncomfortable, so she took Du-ho to a fried rice cake restaurant. The two of them ate snacks and drank wine. After a while, she slumped on the table. Du-ho went to help her and realized that her clothes were already covered with hot sauce. He took out a tissue and tried to clean her up, but he saw that the soiled area was a bit sensitive. He had no choice but to stop. In the end, Du-ho carried her on his back to take her home. On the way home, she saw a lot of hotel signs on the road. She thought he was carrying her to one of them, but he just carried her to the door. After putting her on the bed, he felt that the back of his shirt was a bit sticky, so he took it off to check. But as soon as he put on the shirt, she suddenly appeared in front of him. She slapped him in the face. Then he went back to bed and fell asleep. Because of her health problems, so she didn't work at the store today. But she didn't expect that at 12 noon. She heard Du-ho knocking at the door. She hurriedly grabbed her makeup. Then she went to the front door and opened it. It turned out that Du-ho had come to bring her soba soup and drinks. Thinking that she misunderstood him yesterday, Rai-hee was embarrassed and asked if Du-ho was okay where he was hit. But Du-ho said it's nothing. He just asked how to clean his shirt that was stained by the rice cake sauce. She asked him to give the shirt to her. After washing it, she ironed Du-ho's shirt. Then she realized that tomorrow night was the friendly match between Korea and Uruguay. She remembered that Du-ho was a fan next door, so she sent Du-ho a shirt. She wanted to invite him to watch the game tomorrow night. Before she could say anything, Du-ho took the initiative. When she got home, he was excited and started looking for the equipment to watch the game. After picking out several sets of equipment to watch the game, she couldn't find one she was happy with, so she went back to her everyday clothes. But this is not suitable for cheering. On the other side, Du-ho is also worried about her soccer gear, but after a while, she didn't put on a jersey. Instead, she wore a pink suit downstairs, and when she looked at him, she realized that Du-ho in front of her wasn't wearing a football outfit either. He was wearing a handsome suit. When Du-ho turned around and saw Rai-hee, he asked her if she was dressed for soccer. She replied that she wore this suit to meet a client today. She didn't change because she was in a hurry. Then they found a bar with a big screen to watch the game. They drank beer together and watched the game. It was a great life. The next day, she went to the tennis court to take a lie detector test for a client. She didn't realize that the person the client asked her to take a lie detector test for, who has always been in the business of cheating people. Rai-hee came as a referee today. After the players finished playing, the client first confirmed the lie detector test with Rai-hee. Then he asked about her mother. When is the anniversary of her late husband's death? She said that if she was worried that the day she married her father would be the same day as her ex-husband's death anniversary, it wouldn't be good luck. But she said her father's birthday was the anniversary of his death. She was so angry that she left right away. Then her mother came out and told her. She told her not to spoil her plans today. She said it's the last time. She doesn't want to lie anymore. Rai-hee could tell that her mother wasn't lying this time. But then the client came to ask his mother whether she was really in love with her father. She answered yes, but she realized that her mother was lying again. She confessed her mother's lies to the client. She showed the client her mother's true colors and prevented her father from being cheated out of his love. However, after she returned to her store, it wasn't long before her mother came to the door. She came into the store and smashed everything. She asked her why she was ruining her business. She even picked up something on the floor and was about to beat her daughter. But then Michikazu suddenly appeared. At that moment, her mother revealed to Michikazu that she was a witch, thinking that Rach had ruined her good deed. She's going to break up her relationship. After saying that, she walked right past her and left. After her mother left, she went out of the store. Du-ho chased after her with an umbrella. He told her that he didn't mean to overhear the conversation. He was afraid of getting wet because of the rain, so he came to give him an umbrella, but she threw away the umbrella. She said that she won't have a future with him because of that damn ability of hers. She had a bad relationship with her family, and she can't have a normal relationship with boys. Du-ho was curious and asked Rai-hee what her power was. She told him that she can recognize lies. When she got home, Rai-hee was in a constant state of remorse. She shouldn't have told Du-ho the secret. The next day, she went to the store to clean up, but she didn't expect Du-ho to come to the store early. He even offered to help her clean up. She thought he would stay away from her if he knew her secret, but she didn't realize that he didn't care. To thank him for helping her clean up the store, she invited him to a restaurant for dinner. When they sat down, they found out that her ex-boyfriend was there. They had to pretend to be boyfriend and girlfriend like last time. But when Du-ho ordered a dish, he realized that they were pretending to be boyfriends, because as a real boyfriend, she doesn't like eggplant. At night, she was alone at home thinking about what happened during the day. She accidentally spilled her beer and stained her blanket, so she took the blanket to the dry cleaners in the middle of the night. But when she was walking, she tripped over the steps, but Du-ho grabbed her in his arms. She was so happy. She didn't expect to meet Du-ho at night. He accompanied her to the dry cleaners. While waiting, They started chatting. The topic of conversation was about Raicha's ability to hear lies. She told Duho that she had found out that he had lied to her once before. Just when Reihi was about to tell Duho about the lie he told, she was interrupted by an acquaintance who appeared outside. The next night, Reihi took Duho to a party with the neighborhood merchants. After the party, they were walking home together. Duho remembered what she hadn't said yesterday, so he asked her which lie she had heard from him. She said, "I didn't kill him. I think it's because of Hawon that I had a nightmare." When he got home, he went to the balcony outside the living room, thinking about what she just said. He was hesitant. I wondered if I should tell him about what happened in the past. The next day at noon, Hawon came to the neighborhood of Duwa's apartment. She wanted to see if she could meet Duwa, but she was recognized by a fan on the way. Luckily, the employees of Ryohe's store suddenly appeared. They lied that they recognized the wrong person and dispersed the crowd. Then they took Hawon back to Reihi's store, but Hawon recognized her right away. She's the neighbor who went to look for her with Duho a few days ago. She told the staff to close the store early. When it was just her and Hawon, Hawon asked her to stay away from Duho. He even said he could give her a lot of money to compensate her, but she didn't give in to Hawon's lure. She even asked Hawon to leave. Hawon then revealed the secret that Duho had killed someone. After a while, Hawon left. Duho came to Reihi's store. He thought about it all night and decided to tell him the truth. What Hawon had told him first. But Duwa said he didn't kill anyone. But Reihi realized that he was lying. While Duho was about to explain more to Reihi, the manager of his company suddenly appeared. He said it's urgent to ask Duho to come with him. Reihi told him to get back to work and talk to him later. After Duwa left, she sat on the bench for a long time because she didn't believe that Duho would lie to her. All she could do was reassure herself that she might have misheard him. The next night, Duwa came to Reihi's store again. He asked her if she had heard his lie yesterday. She answered in the affirmative, but she also told Duho maybe she had a hearing problem yesterday. She asked him to repeat it in front of her. Duwa still says he didn't kill him. This time, she really heard what he said. He confirmed that his hearing was fine. At this moment, she didn't know how to face Duho. He could only turn around and leave. Afterwards, she went to the store where she and Duho had a late-night snack together last time, but when she ate the prawns, which she thought were very good, but she couldn't get the same taste as last time. After a few cups of soju, she called Duho again. "Why are the prawns not as good as the ones you peeled last time?" Duho asked where she was now and he was on his way, but she suddenly hung up the phone because she didn't know how to face Duho. Duho realized how she was feeling, so he decided to move away from her house. He went back to his previous place. The next day, she took a lie detector test. A patient at the hospital asked her to take a lie detector test, but when she arrived at the hospital, she saw her ex-boyfriend, Chi Hyuk. She saw that he was going to the gastric cancer department. She followed him and asked the nurse on duty. She found out that Hyuk was here for a late checkup. Rueshi went to take a lie detector test for a client. When she left the hospital, she met him at the main entrance. The two of them greeted each other briefly. Chi Hyuk said he was visiting someone else. Reihi realized that he was lying and confirmed that he's here to see a doctor. Seeing that he greeted him, he offered to have dinner with him, but she didn't refuse. In the afternoon, she was invited by Duho's manager, Deok-chan. She was asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement that she wouldn't disclose Duho's identity as a murder suspect. He found out that there's a $10 million compensation in the agreement. He told Deok-chan to remove this clause. Otherwise, he won't sign the agreement. Then he asked Deok-chan if he hadn't seen Duho in the past few days, but he told him that Duho is going to Germany soon. After Reihi left, Deok-chan immediately went to find Duha. He told him that his ex-girlfriend's brother was looking for him again, and that his mother is running for Congress, so he wanted him to leave the country for a while. But Duha told Deok-chan, this time, he's not going anywhere. He decided to face everything head-on. On the other hand, Reihi and Chi Hyuk went to a restaurant together. After chatting for a while, Reihi finally told him that she knew he went to the hospital to see a doctor. She asked him if he had stomach cancer when he was with her. Chi Hyuk replied yes. He didn't want to tell her because he was afraid she'd be upset. Later, Reihi told Chi Hyuk. She told him that she broke up with him because he lied to her. Then Chi Hyuk asked her to get back together, but she didn't realize that Duwa's image came to her mind, so Chi Hyuk sent her back to her apartment. He encouraged her to confess to Duho, and said that if he wants to come back to her, I'll be waiting for her. When she got home, she thought about her conversation with Chi Hyuk. She said she could only hear that it was a lie, but she couldn't tell why. As if she suddenly remembered something, she drove off to look for Duho. When she got to the neighborhood, she dialed Duho's number. Suddenly, the security guard came and knocked on the window of her car. Duho recognized the voice of his ex-girlfriend's brother. He told her that he was the one who tried to kill him. He told her to stay away from him, but he didn't realize that before he finished speaking. But before he could finish his sentence, his cell phone went dead and the call was terminated. Dua rushed out of his house to look for Reihi. He was about to ask the security guard. She pulled him to the side. The security guard noticed something wrong and followed him. They hid in a corner. Just when the security guard was about to find them, another security guard suddenly appeared and called him away. Duho told him that he would explain to her when he had time, but she didn't expect him to say no, because she believed in what he said. It turns out that since Dua and his ex-girlfriend, Kenji, graduated, they chose to separate because they couldn't get into the same university. Whenever there was a holiday, Michikazu would go back to be with Kenji. One day, She asked him to come and live with her in the city where he went to school, but he told her that it was not convenient for him to live in the dormitory. Then he told her that he couldn't come back to stay with her because he had exams next week. Kenji was not happy about it. She had an exam last week. How come you're having an exam now? Facing the questioning of Kenji, Michikazu told her the truth. He said that besides exams, when he removed his mask, he realized that the man he stabbed was not Dojo. At that moment, Michikazu came out of the elevator. When he saw that, he rushed to him like a madman. The noise they made in the corridor alerted Reihi. Duho quickly closed the door of Reihi's house. When she got back to the house, she called the police. She also called her ex-boyfriend Kong Myung-soon to help. Then she opened the door and peeked outside. She realized that Duho was being strangled by Hyunho. She immediately took out an umbrella to help, but she was thrown to the ground and sprained her ankle. Then he threw Duho away from her. When he was about to pick up the knife, Cumming suddenly appeared and overpowered him. When Kenzo arrived at the police station, Cumming was in charge of taking statements from Duho and Reihi. After learning the whole story, Cumming couldn't help but blame Reihi for contacting him. Why did she run away? She said it was an emergency and she couldn't care less. But Cumming interrupted her again. Turning to him, he asked, "Is that how you protect your girlfriend?" He said that the knife would only hurt you. Just now, that knife has already hurt one person and sent him to the hospital. After taking the statement, Duhwa carried Reihi to the street. He stopped a cab for her and told her to go home to rest, but she asked Duho to accompany her. But he had to go to the hospital to see the man who was injured for him. Luckily, he didn't die in time. He's lying in the hospital bed and has woken up. He went to apologize to him. He told him he had it coming. He was compelled by a rival composer to investigate. When he arrived at the door of his house, he was accidentally injured. Seeing that the other party was out of danger, he was about to leave the hospital and go home. But he didn't expect to be surrounded by a group of reporters. He was surrounded by reporters. It turns out that his hiding the identity of a murder suspect and his involvement in the entertainment industry has been widely publicized on the internet. These reporters are here to interview Dao-hee. Facing so many reporters, this time, Dao-hee didn't choose to avoid anymore. He admitted his true identity, but denied that he was a murderer. Afterwards, he returned home. The man who had testified for him came to his door again. He said he was in financial trouble. In order to help him, he also told him the secret of her father's domestic violence. It turned out that when Michikazu and Kenji were dating, when he was in a relationship with her, she kept her father's true identity a secret. After learning this information, Duho suddenly wondered if her father had something to do with her death. So the next day, Duho found Reihi. He told him he had to go back to his hometown. She knew that he wanted to go back to investigate the cause of death, so she offered to go with him, but Duhwa refused. He told him he'd be back soon, but since Duho left, Reihi couldn't concentrate on her work all day, so she gave 2 of her employees a paid vacation. She drove to Duho's hometown. She decided to accompany Duho to investigate the real cause of Yunji's death. The 2 of them met at the beach and made love for a while. They went to the bank where he used to work. They wanted to find out more about his family. The manager of the bank welcomed them. He told them that Kenji was a poor girl. Not only did her creditors come to see her while she was working at the bank, even her father used to come here to ask for money. After she died, her father also came to the bank to ask for the life insurance in her name, but because there was no sign of his body at that time, so her father never got the money. Until a few days ago, when the police found his bones, her father came to the bank again. Then he got the insurance money. The manager said that when she got the insurance money, her father was so happy that he felt. Afterwards, Duho and Reihi went to a small store. They found the remarried wife of Yunji's father. They tried to find out about his father's whereabouts from her, but the woman didn't say anything. Duhwa suddenly remembered the last time he came to see this woman. In the trash can in front of her house, I saw an envelope from an insurance company. So he asked the woman, "Did your husband take out an insurance policy in your name?" The woman flatly denied that there was no such thing, but she was caught in the act. Duhwa told the woman, "Your husband had just received her daughter's death insurance money, and he was all smiles when he took the money. Now he's insuring you too. Maybe you'll be next." The woman then told them about a casino her husband frequented. But when they arrived at the casino, they found 2 burly security guards standing at the entrance. It didn't seem easy to get in. After some discussion, they decided. They went in naturally. Maybe the guards won't stop them. So they got out of the car and went to the entrance of the casino. When they were about to walk in, they were stopped by 2 security guards. They had no choice but to pretend to be gamblers and let them pass. But the guards said they wouldn't let them in if they weren't members. Just as they started to argue at the casino door, a voice came from the side. He recognized him as a former customer. "I didn't realize that this customer was also the owner of this casino." With an acquaintance, they naturally followed him into the casino. In the end, the 2 just entered the casino not long ago. They realized that someone was arguing. Michikazu recognized him as Kenji's father. He immediately rushed forward and pushed Kenji's father to the ground. Then he grabbed him by the collar and asked him in a stern voice, "Did you kill him?" He replied and said it wasn't him. When he saw Yoonji's father mocking him, Boss Black grabbed him from the ground. He asked him who killed his daughter. He didn't expect to find the man who had been following him at the scene. Michikazu looked in the direction where Kenji's father was pointing. He didn't realize it was Jae-chan, who had helped him with his alibi. Jae-chan escaped from the scene and went to the side of the road. He got on a motorcycle and left. Doo-woo rushed out and followed him in his car. They chased each other for several blocks. Doo-woo stopped Jae-chan in an alleyway. He grabbed Jae-chan and asked him, "Did he kill Yoon Ji-suk?" Jae-chan replied that he killed him. At that moment, Ri, who was riding in the car of the black boss, came to the side. Unfortunately, she was too late. She didn't hear Jae-chan's confession. Otherwise, she would have been able to tell if he was lying or not. Jae-chan saw so many people coming to arrest him. In a hurry, he took her hostage. He forced Doo-ho to give him the car keys. Then he drove away with Doo-ho's car. On the other hand, near the police station, Reihi's ex-boyfriend Coming approached the fat detective. He wanted to get some clues from him about the murder of Kenji, but the fat detective said that he has been transferred out of the station. But the next day, the fat detective was notified by the hospital. His hospitalized daughter was seriously ill and needed to be resuscitated immediately. The doctor told him to be prepared. After that, the fat detective was asked to meet with Mr. Dao and his mother. I didn't expect Dao and his mom to tell him to prepare for a promotion and transfer. The fat detective had been trying to save his daughter's life. He took money from Dao's mom to help her son, Dao Ha, get rid of the suspect. However, he just received the notice of his daughter's critical condition. Doo-woo's mom was ready to promote and transfer him. The fat detective thought that she was worried that after her daughter's departure, she lost her leverage. That's why she helped him to get a promotion in an attempt to continue to control him. The fat detective was furious and turned around and left. The next day, the fat detective called Coming. He gave him a ring from the scene of the skeleton. He also gave the reporter the video he took of his meeting with Michiko's mother. He confessed to the reporter that he helped Dao and his mother hide the evidence. On the other hand, Coming, after getting the ring, Coming found out that it was the same ring that Michiko and Kenji had customized. But this ring was made by another person pretending to be Doo-ho. And this person is the one they are looking for, Zai-chan. After Kang Myung told Doo-woo about his discovery, Doo-ho decided to hire Reihi to do a lie test for him. In the message, they don't plan to send a foreigner. And the person he wanted to test was Jae-chan's brother, Deok-chan, the owner of his former agency. Doo-woo invited Deok-chan to a bar where he used to play the piano. He'll ask him to talk to him face to face. Reihi hid to help him to test if he's telling the truth. In the end, Doo-ho asked 2 questions. The answers were all lies. Finally, Doo-ho asked Deok-chan where his brother was. Deok-chan hesitated and said that Jae-chan had turned himself in. He realized that it wasn't a lie, so he passed the information to Doo-ho. On the other hand, Jae-chan turned himself in and was escorted to Coming station. He was interrogated by Coming. Jae-chan explained to Kang Myung how he killed Kenji. He admitted that he had a crush on him and killed him by mistake. But after checking the records of Jae-chan's previous statement, Jae-chan's account of how he disposed of Kenji's clothes, Jae-chan's 2 statements were different. So Coming thought there must be something wrong with Jae-chan's confession. So he met with Ri that night. He told him that he suspected that Jae-chan might not be the real killer. He asked her to do him a favor at the police station tomorrow. The next day, she came to the police station as promised. Kang arranged for her to meet Jae-chan alone. When she met Jae-chan, she told him she was invited by his brother to see him. He asked her to give Jae-chan a message, that there was a mistake in the plan, so that she can break down Jae-chan's psychological defense. Then she'll try to get him to say something. She told him what she told Doo-ho. When he heard that his brother didn't save him first after falling into the water, Jae-chan broke down instantly. He told him about the ring. After she got the answer she wanted, she immediately went outside to contact Doo-ho, but no one answered the phone. She had to leave in her car. So Jae-chan told her how his brother asked him to take the blame. He also told her that his brother still has evidence of the murder at the company. That's why she was in a hurry to leave. She wants to go to Jae-chan's company to find the evidence. She took Jae-chan's badge and went to Deok-chan's company. She went to Deok-chan's office to look for evidence, but she didn't find anything out of the ordinary. Finally, she found a safe in the corner, so she called Doo-ho immediately. She asked him if he knew Deok-chan's password. Doo-ho never thought the real murderer of Kenji. It would be his big brother, Deok-chan, who had always taken care of him. Unfortunately, he didn't know Deok-chan's password, but when she opened the desk mat, she found a photo of Doo-ho and Deok-chan. It turns out that Deok-chan doesn't like Yoon-ji. Deok-chan came back to his office. He opened the safe, but he found it empty. At that moment, Ri appeared with a box in her arms. She used the date on the photo to open the safe. She took out the contents of the safe with the date on the photo. She rushed out of the office. Deok-chan followed her, but he realized that Doo-ho was also here. Deok-chan realized that Reihi and Doo-ho must have known the truth. He couldn't show up in front of Doo-ho, so he hurriedly turned around and ran away. But he was stopped by Coming, who came to the scene. But when Cumming's colleague was about to take him back to the police station, Deok-chan escaped and drove away in a car. They immediately got into a car and chased after him. However, he unbuckled his seatbelt at that moment. He closed his eyes and accelerated towards the roadblock in front of him. They rushed to Deok-chan and realized he was not breathing. Coming hurriedly bent down to do CPR for him. He was saved from death. So he told Doo-ho about killing Kenji. That day, He waited for him at the bar for a long time. He had no choice but to go to the beach to look for him. He didn't expect to see Kunji, who had just broken up with Do-ho. Deok-chan couldn't stand the fact that she was pestering Do-ho. He advised her not to bother him anymore. Just when Deok-chan was about to leave, he told her that he likes him, so he stopped her. Then he took her to a nearby forest. After they argued in the forest, Deok-chan killed her. Then he buried her in the ground. Then he stripped her of her bloody clothes. When he was burning the clothes, suddenly he remembered that he might have implicated Do-ho in her death. He was worried that Do-ho would be sentenced to jail, so he saved the clothes instead of burning them. If Do-ho was really sentenced to jail, he would take out the clothes and turn himself in to clear his name. After listening to Deok-chan's story, Do-ho didn't know how to face Deok-chan. He wished him a speedy recovery and turned away. The next day, he received an order for a lie detector test. She followed the client to the lie detector test location. She waited for the person the client was going to test. She gave many reasons to reject her client's advances. She told the client that she was telling the truth, but in the end, she got impatient and told her client. He told him that everything he said was a lie to get him to back off. She realized that after the car accident and explosion, she might have lost the ability to detect lies by listening to voices. When she got home, she told Do-ho about it. She said that she could tell if someone was lying or not. Now she's suddenly lost this ability and can't adapt to it. Do-ho reassured her that this was not a bad thing. At least she can live a normal life. But she told Do-ho, she told him to tell her a lie every day. That way, she'll know if her lie detection ability will be restored. That day, she and Do-hwa went to see a play. After the show, they were going to eat together, but Do-hwa said he had something to do and cancelled the dinner. But when they got home, Do-hwa took out the food he prepared in advance. He followed the instructions on TV and started to make it. Afterwards, Do-hwa sent a message to ask Rei-hee to come to his house. He showed her the candlelight dinner he had prepared. He told her that the only good thing he could think of after realizing that he had lost his ability to detect lies. They had a romantic dinner together. They sat on the sofa and watched a movie together. Afterwards, he suddenly told Do-ho. It seems that not being able to hear someone lie is also a good experience. When Coming found out that Rates and Do-ho had confirmed their relationship, he said goodbye to her in person, because Coming didn't have the courage to be with her as a friend. On that day, her father came to the store to see her. It so happened that Do-ho also came to the store. She introduced him to her father. Then she got a call from her mom. She's getting married to someone else. She told her to go and meet the man she was marrying. But she wanted her mom to make up with her dad, and her father never forgot her mom either. So they had a discussion. They decided to give her father a package. He's going to get her mom back. And then, as she waited for her mom to arrive, she didn't expect to see her father appearing in front of her. He took out a ring that he had prepared in advance. He asked her to get back together with him. When she saw the ring, she knocked it down. She said she didn't want to go back to the past. She didn't realize that she had lost her lie detector skills. She rushed forward and broke her mom's lies. So dad and mom are together again. On the other hand, Do-ho has been busy writing a song for a singer who was once hurt by him. After months of hard work, this new song is finally released. It's been #1 for 3 weeks. With this new song, he won the Best Songwriter award again. Later, Do-ho went to visit Deok-chan in prison. He told him that the day he died, there was an unsent message on his cell phone. My life is not very beautiful. It's like the ocean at night. Since I met you, I've realized that the sea is blue. I didn't die because you left me. It's thanks to you that I'm still alive. Deok-chan told Do and Hyun-ji that he only wanted him to be happy. After the success of his career, Do-ho finally got up the courage to propose to Rei-hee. Then she wrote an email. She sent it to the clients she used to serve. She told them that she was going to stop taking lie detector tests. Then she and Do-ho set out on a journey to a happy future.